Can you speak up, please, so we all can hear you?
Sorry, the second page, 180 VFW Drive, add site owner also cleaned out to the 2 catch basins at the site. And then for 300 VFW, oh, never mind, we already had it in there. That was just the one, this one's.
Thank you, Barry. While the board's reading the minutes, anybody's here for 327, 333 Main Street, that's been continued to our next hearing. I think it's January 10th.
Marty? The item that you mentioned was on 180 VFW Drive, or was it on 403?
180.
180, okay.
The hockey rink. Yeah.
Marty, every time I see NEC,
They changed that.
to accept the minutes with the revision.
Second.
Taylor? Okay, so as I said, William Street's continued until January 10th. And we'll take the Shingle Mill project. Know where we're at on this, and then we'll go from here. We have presenters here.
Mr. Chairman.
Right.
Good evening. My name is Donald Nagel. I represent Shingle Mill LLC, the applicant in this NOI. And with me is Mike Trudeau, wetland scientist from Conoco, and Damien Dimitrick, the professional engineer, also from Conoco. So, as you all know, it's been quite a while since we've appeared here, but in the meantime, we've been making submittals to the Conservation Commission and responding to comments by peer review by from Marty and Henry. Specifically, on September 27th, we submitted updates of the stormwater calculations, the drainage report, and site plans. So Damien can address those updates, but before we do that, I'd like to first touch on the Zone A, which I know has been a big issue in this project, and has really driven a lot of the design changes. As many of you know, the Zone A is depicted on, all Zone A's are depicted, for most areas anyway, depicted on DEP's mass mapper. And that is for really guidance purposes only, for exact delineations for specific projects. You need to do a field investigation. And there's a disclaimer on the website that basically says that. So what we did is we did several site visits to evaluate it, and it's kind of a complicated area. It's very flat. So we checked it out. We made an evaluation ourselves. We invited DEP down. DEP came down for 2 site visits, and we came up with certain revisions to the Zone A. And we got a letter out of DEP, or rather an email, indicating that, yeah, DEP, this is from Richard Fenn from Water Supply, DEP Boston. And he said, yeah, we agree with this revision to the Zone A. And there's a letter. I could just read it real quick for everybody. This email can be used to demonstrate Mass DEP's agreement with the revisions to the Zone A, a public water supply surface water protection area at the proposed Shingle Mill housing at 7579 Pond Street in Rockland. A Zone A is a 200-foot buffer around a tributary to a public water supply system reservoir, and a 400-foot buffer around a public water supply reservoir. Zone A, the Shingle Mill property, is for tributaries to the Hingham Street Reservoir operated by the Hingham Water Department. Zone A areas are delineated by Mass DEP using GIS based on published hydrography. Interested parties can request Mass DEP to review Zone A's if they believe the published hydrography is different from actual conditions, and that's exactly what we did. At Conoco's request, DEP visited the Hingham Street Reservoir and the Shingle Mill property to determine what changes, if any, should be made to the locations of tributaries to the reservoir and thus to Zone A areas. Based on observations made by DEP during 2 site visits at the Pond Street property, we agree with the changes shown on the plans prepared by Conoco, titled Shingle Mill Apartments Proposed Zone A Revisions, dated November 18, 2022. And Mike can show the Zone A.
Can somebody dim the lights so we can see that?
Good idea.
And zoom in on that area that you're planning on changing?
Yeah, yeah. So,
Okay.
better look at it. This shows both the former Zone A as published on DEP's website and the changes, and I'll let Mike describe what those changes are, if you can do that, Mike.
Sure, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So there are two different hatches on here. There's the darker blue hatch. That's the Zone A as published in Mass Mapper as amended by Richard Friend's letter. So this edge is an amendment to what is shown on Mass Mapper. There's a lighter hatch right here, and this lighter hatch right here. This,
Right here, where?
Where?
We can't.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, use the
Back
mouse.
with you?
Yeah,
Right
I'm
here?
sorry. I had a pointer on there. It didn't look like it was showing up.
Yeah, it's blue, that's why.
Right here.
Okay.
Right,
So this is the new zone A, right?
right.
That's the open.
I don't
And
see
what
that.
about the stuff up here on the right-hand side?
Everything that's in dark blue remains the same. So let me zoom back out for a second.
Is that blue
So
up on the
now you've
right?
got it blue and red on the upper part where you've got a tributary.
Hang on.
Tributary zone.
All this big area here, all of this area,
Yes.
all of this
Yep.
is the Zone A.
All right.
The only change to the Zone A is right here. This piece right here.
Mhm.
This all remains Zone A. We reviewed all this with you.
Give us a quick, where's Pond Street?
This is Pond Street.
Okay.
This is the entrance in off Pond Street.
Goes right to the
Entrance
Zone A.
to the zone A?
The entrance is through the Zone A.
Okay, yeah.
Correct.
Is there any way to show the endangered species on there as well?
There are no endangered species on the site.
There's a vernal pool right there.
There is a certified vernal pool
Correct, right where that,
right here.
right where you.
This
made
dark,
it- where
this
you
dark
made your-
area right here, this area here, this is the certified vernal pool.
It's part of where you made your
You
changes.
guys not ask questions in the audience yet to let them present?
Okay,
because
I just want to make sure that was on there.
Through the chair.
I'm trying. Go ahead.
Through the chair.
Somebody else is in charge.
We're in charge.
Okay, do you have anything else to present?
We have plans to present. We don't have anything else on the Zone A, unless the commission wants to ask questions now about the Zone A. We can answer any other questions that we can at this point. And then we have plans to present to show the project.
All right, so we'll address the zone A now. Let's put the lights back on. It's too dark in here. So I see the entrance to the site, and that's the only entrance to the site, I'm assuming?
That is the proposed entrance to the site, correct. There's an easement off Wilson Street that comes onto the site by a house there.
Where is that?
Right about where your finger was.
Right back here. It's a Baker Street right here, it's Wilson Street right here, Baker Street.
So, does the board have any questions on the zoning before we get Marty?
No, I want Marty to give her opinion.
Why does the DEP think
Can we close that?
No.
No, we open. Public meeting's gotta stay open.
Tell them to be quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
All
I'm
right, go
sorry,
ahead and speak.
I didn't hear the question.
Yeah, why is on the letter, the DEP is saying that the Hingham Water Department operates the reservoir?
We know that, but it's in the letter, the letter.
And the letter
says
says
as
that
Hingham,
Hingham Water Department operates the
and it doesn't.
Have it run.
Rockland.
I'm sure they can.
I can't answer as to why Richard put the wrong water district in this.
Mr. Chair, they may have done that because it's the Hingham resident.
Annex
No,
Street?
no,
Yeah.
Hingham,
Annex.
Hingham Street, no.
no, that's Rockland's, Rockland and Abington.
Is it Hingham
Hingham's
Street?
Reservoir.
Hingham Street, maybe.
That's right. Hingham's Reservoir is on the other side of the highway. That's right.
Might have been mistaken on Hingham Street.
I know,
Either way, we
but
know it's
that's-
Rockland Abington Water.
but that's the professionalism that we're listening to.
Okay.
And nobody in the petitioning party, nobody, the error. Now I'd like to hear from you.
Marty?
Yeah.
Zone A issue,
Why?
please?
Well, I was out on site for both the on-sites with the water supply, and they looked at it intensely and applied their definition of tributary to the public water supply. They walked the entire length of, from, I guess, the east towards the west and south, and followed the whole tributary water supply down. And so their findings were that they saw a connection in every location in the Zone A except for that one area. They couldn't find a connection on the surface of the ground for water to reach the reservoir. That was a very difficult area. I tend to agree with them. It's very hummocky, and they couldn't find a straight line for a drop of water to make it to the reservoir. There was too many obstructions and hummocks for that drop of water to get to it. So, all in all, I think that DEP did a great job protecting the Zone A here. But that one area, they just couldn't find the connection.
So, as far as discussion on the project, we'll agree with the Zone A as is. DEP's already verified it, and our consultants verified it. The problems with the Zone A, I think we should handle that as you present the project, correct? As far as the Zone A, I'm sure the board will agree. Correct? You don't agree with DEP and Marty?
Well, I have the old historical maps, and I did that originally there was a connection.
Okay, well, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, the commission really can't, I mean, they can submit to DEP an argument that they feel that that actually connects, but at this point, it'd be difficult to provide the information they would need to go back to the original maps.
And Miranda, you're talking about just that piece of the area.
No, just that piece.
I don't know. Consultant behind agrees with it, DEP agrees with it. I don't know what you're going to ask, but I don't know what to say. Okay, so the Zone A issue, we'll address the issues within that as you present the project.
Sure.
All right, 'cause, the project needs to be refreshed for the audience.
Okay.
What changes were made, what's going where, drainage, etc. And then we'll come back to this.
Okay.
How's that sound?
Sure.
Go ahead. Is this all going to be on the screen again?
We also have it on plan sets in front of you.
Yeah, you guys can flip the plans as you go, that'd be great.
Sure. So, Damien, you want to do that? You can tell me what sheet you want me to show up on the screen?
Sure. So you can basically just take it from the top, the way it was originally, that it was presented to the board, and the way it is now.
Okay.
Because the board doesn't know a lot of the changes. Can the audience see this still with these lights on?
Yes.
All right, let's leave it as is.
Mike, I'm going to probably the best way to present the majority of the project. The proposed key sheet.
Which sheet would you like?
Sheet.
Okay.
All right, So just to give a general rundown of the project, the majority of the site layout hasn't changed to any major extent for the major portion of the site. The main access is still from Pond Street down the existing upland area here. We come down to our main parking areas in the larger uplands, in which we have the two buildings, the bar building, and then that old building as they've been referred to. I believe there may have been parking that in previous revisions showed in this area down here. And below there, we've reduced parking, we cut it back. Locations throughout the site have modified slightly. We have added areas such as, amenity, patio areas around this portion of the site. And then there has been actually, not very well shown on this sheet, but I can put it forward on the landscaping sheet. As we get further into this design stuff here, a playground area. But the gist of the project, the majority of the layout of the site is set up is for, the same. We are looking at about 311 parking spaces as the current site is currently proposed. Pretty standard, accessible. We all, fire access locations behind the buildings and in certain locations. And there's the additional fire access that's through Wilson Street. That is for emergency use by fire. The 2 stories, the building 1, the L building, is a 5-story building. We have 99 units, 37 one-bedroom units, 49 2-bedroom units, 13 3-bedroom units in that. Building 2, the bar building, again, 5 stories, 100 units, 68 1 units, 23 2 units, and 9 apartments. The water is being brought in, or is being supplied to the site in 2 locations, or by 2 forms. Emergency fire use is being supplied through the town to, fire sprinklers and hydrants and everything like that per codes. But the domestic water and used water within the building is being evaluated through on-site wells. That well evaluation is ongoing and current. I believe the board has received notification of those testing. So otherwise, the sewer will be added as an extension through Wilson Street. Through Wilson Street, it'll be an extension of the existing sewer lines. Gas, electric, communications will all be brought in through services through Pond Street here. And that's the majority of the stuff that has relatively stayed the same. What the big changes that have occurred due to the new Zone A restrictions, which Mike, you want to flip to the.
Yeah, just for a second, Mr. Chairman, this graphic shows the overall of the proposed plan, but it also shows the Zone A. So this is, in response to your comment before, show us the project in relation to the Zone A. So this is kind of an overview of the Zone A, which is still the same hatchet that we had before, and then the project, and how the project sits outside of and inside of the places the Zone A.
Yeah, because I can see the water courses on this.
Where's Wilson Street?
Right there.
This
Now I
street
can
right
actually
here.
read it up close.
What's,
I
what's that?
yeah.
It's like
Yes, I
seven,
know.
five,
That's
This is Cedar.
That's the biggest street.
Right, so this is a Baker Street right here too, I think, towards the end. Wilson Street only extends a certain distance, and then I think it's Baker at the end.
On
Right.
Wilson Street, are there any houses in the Zone A? Right now?
I think there are, but I don't have them on here.
Yeah, there are homes in that.
We have a resident expert.
I
Any
live
houses?
there.
They were, on the old plans, they were all listed, all the homes that were listed on there.
Yeah,
And the one, and that block that's on the lower side of Wilson Street between Wilson and Colby is where that gentleman used to be running around with his earth diggers and everything.
So-
What the heck is his name?
Lloyd.
Lyle.
I live on Colby and I'm a Zone A. I'm the last house on Colby and I'm a Zone A. I'm right behind 152 Wilson. And my property is a zone A.
Okay.
It floods.
That was many years before there were rules.
Got anything else?
Yeah, so what the major revisions have been to,
That happens all the time.
it happens, you know, that's, reject yourself.
Which sheet do you want, Damon?
Go to the drainage, we're looking at sheet 13. Yeah, so this sheet now shows the entrance in the Zone A through the site, along that entrance. And what we've had to do now that the Zone A has been established, and there's been a minor modification to that, we've established all of our drainage structures outside of the limits of the Zone A. So along the entrance, that really limits us to a very small location at the very front of the site. You can see it called out, that water quality unit. That pink line actually dictates an existing drainage line that goes underneath the existing upland area there. And then right behind it on the lower end of it, as per the screen, you can see our flared end section, our water quality units and catch basin to catch the front of the site. They're discharged outside of the zone.
This is up here, right in?
Yep. Right there. Yep. So that bottom right-hand corner where you can see the grading and the steep slope and those structures and the leaders that call out all of that information there. So that is our drainage structures to control the drainage from the front of the site. That way that we discharge outside of the zone A, but it will maintain, in its normal patterns, through the existing drainage swale and RCP pipe that goes underneath that existing upland. So then, it's very minimal at this portion of the site. We're only really catching and collecting and directing stormwater via grading. So then the next sheet, Mike.
Where's the tributary zone? I don't see the tributary.
I don't have them shown on there because the limits of the zone A are what we're concerned with. The tributaries shown on that are not.
I think it's not like right on top of the tributary though? I mean, shouldn't you show the tributary right there?
So I mean.
Mr. Chairman, do we want to keep?
No.
Okay.
We gotta hold our questions to the end, I'm sorry.
Just concerned that it's not shown there, it was shown before, it's not shown now.
Well, I like the, projectors as a millennial, the little ones, technology.
I mean, you're welcome to use that if you wanna walk it.
Yeah, I can really, that might be a
Fix
little
that.
bit, yeah.
Get rid of that.
I don't know how you guys used to do it before. I'm used to the Zoom stuff.
Well,
Awesome.
we used to be given the stuff on paper and in front of us so that we
Yeah.
could read along with it.
Yeah.
They're,
You'll get to be a someday neighbors.
Actually, you can.
can we see the cursor? And I'm going to use a little comment.
Yeah.
Our
we can see the
comments
cursor
are-
now.
Wonderful. And those are just two comments on the previous page. All right, here we go, wonderful. Okay, so now to the major portion of the site where we're looking at the majority of our drainage. So the majority of the flows come from the access, make their way all the way down the road to these catch basins in this area that are then infiltrated or collected, controlled, treated and infiltrated into the infiltration basin chamber system, and shown here. That then discharges to a separate point, again, outside of the zone A. And that's the majority of how our systems were designed. We collect and treat and infiltrate all of our systems and then discharge locations outside of the zone A. So, similar fashion, this system over here collects significantly smaller area. So therefore the chamber systems are sized to a lesser degree, but again collects from different portions of the site. Our catch basins shown outside of the zone A. That's this one here, and they all collect and are treated and controlled into the infiltration chamber systems before being discharged to the upland area outside of the wetlands and outside the extents of the zone A. Lastly, this small chamber system down in this corner does the same thing. So We have been working with Marty and Henry Nover regarding their comments.
So just to put you on hold for a second.
Yeah.
Just for the board's reference and the audience's reference, they're not allowed to put the storm drainage structures in a zone. That's why we're building buildings. So just so everybody knows.
And Mr. Chair,
Why we're
we've
doing
also
this.
kept it at a board of bylaws.
Yep. And outside the limits of the vernal pool. So, you know, we have designed the site drainage systems, which is typically the most complex, you know, due to the issues with, they're controlled by gravity. And we had to direct all the systems outside of the Zone A, which we have done in this design plan. Again, we are, as I was starting to say, we have received comments from Marty, Henry, and Pat Brennan, who is the ZBA peer reviewer. I am working with them. We've had conversations. We had a meeting in which we, you know, discussed the revisions and the modifications, their concerns. We are working through those modifications currently, and we will, you know, present the revised versions and work with them to resolve any issues or concerns that they have on that peer review level.
Okay. Anything else?
I think though, you know, we are working with the ZBA currently. That meeting was continued to February 21st. And, you know, that's the gist of just kind of getting you guys caught up to where the design has come to from that point. So I think that is that.
So just because, well, most of the boards in this town don't really communicate very well, has the zoning board waived the conservation local bylaw yet?
Yeah, if I may, Chair, we haven't really, you know, urged them to make a decision on that issue yet.
I mean, that's,
We
if that's
wanted
not
to get the
waived,
Zone A addressed as well, just as we wanted to here tonight.
I mean, if our bylaw is not waived, then where do we stand on this?
Yeah, I mean, the idea of coming here tonight is to present the revised Zone A, to present the changes that we've made thus far. You know, as Damien said, we're going back to the ZBA in February, and we're going to make progress with them so that, you know, the idea is by the time we come back here, we will have addressed the waiver of you know, the bylaw. So you know what the template that you're working on. You know, I understand why you're asking that question.
So, just so the audience knows, and I'm not taking any questions on this yet, it's up to the Rockland zoning board to waive the conservation bylaw that this board abides by. So just keep that in mind. Everybody here who's here for this project. Conservation Commission does not waive it, the zoning board waives it. Just so we're clear. Okay. All right, Marty?
Well, you know, I think that our comments on this newer set of plans, to summarize, they don't meet performance standards for many reasons. So at this point, they haven't provided the commission with sufficient site detail for the effects of the work to determine the actual impacts to the resource areas. So the commission needs that information to render a decision. The stormwater, Dimitri had mentioned that he's working with Pat Brennan and Henry on stormwater management. Currently, there's, it's our opinion, it doesn't meet the stormwater standards, and therefore they're working through those issues. They also are going to be doing, I believe, some test pits out on site, and we'll witness them because the standards require that test pits and soil evaluations be conducted within the stormwater DMP areas, the boxes.
For groundwater, right?
Yeah, for groundwater. So I believe we're going to be doing that as soon as they schedule those, so that we can confirm the assumptions that they're using in their models for their stormwater management. One of the big issues is the road coming in. There's going to be a significant amount of fill on that existing road. In some areas, 10 feet. So there's 3 existing culverts under that road now, and I think that was one of the questions that the audience brought up. We're well aware of those culverts. They are shown. We had them show them on the plans. They originally were not shown. One of them actually carries a Zone A water stream. And their proposed plans now show that they'll be extending it over, but they haven't quantified the impact that they will make on the water. So they need to look at that and address that, because currently their application before the commission and DEP says it's a buffer zone only project, which is not the case. Improving that road coming in by increasing the height of it in order to support the utilities they need to bring in, and then they'll need to build a retaining wall along the entire length. Some areas, very high retaining wall.
Oh, hi, Mark. Roughly.
In some locations, 10 feet. So the wetland boundary along that drive coming in some places is right on top of the retaining wall. So they haven't really looked at the constructability of that retaining wall and impacts to the BBW. So they need to do that. Currently, they haven't quantified any resource area impacts, which is not the case.
So in other words, you can't build a 10-foot high retaining wall exactly at the wetland point that you're at without disturbing anyone.
Right, and even if they, they talk about they need a 2-foot work area, and that may or may not be the case, but, along in that 2 feet, there could be a tree, there's roots, there's overhang, so we had talked to them about establishing that limit of work so that we can go take a look at it and really take a look at the constructability of that retaining wall and potential impacts to the vegetated wetlands. Now, the vegetated wetlands and the stream are considered outstanding resource waters because they are a water supply. So that brings in a whole nother set of regulations. So if they are going to be working in these outstanding resource waters, they need to file under the 401 water quality certification process. That is in our comment letter. They're aware of that. And then they're going to need a state permit, which is the 401 water quality cert. Therefore, they trigger NEPA. So they have some determining work to do. So they're maybe getting close, but they're far away from our recommendation to the board to issue an order of condition approval of the project. Ways to go. There's just a lot of detail that they need to provide. So, the commission approved the vegetated wetland boundary through the order of resource area delineation several years ago. It did not approve streams, banks, plan on the water. None are shown on the plan. They're aware of that. We recommended that they add that to the plan so that we can take a look at where those boundaries of those resource areas are located in relation to the proposed work.
No,
So
was that
that
in your comment letter?
Yes, so the commission can see what the impacts of the project is on the resource areas. So I think that was pretty much the.
I got your list here, you covered it.
There you go. Anyway, so I just want to,
There's one on here, Marty, that you didn't mention. The sewer line off of Wilson Street.
right,
I'll let you comment on that first.
right.
You're the expert.
Right, so I looked at the water supply regulations, and it specifically states that no new sewer lines can be placed in the zone, black and white. So in our comment letter to the commission and to the applicant, we asked them to provide a regulatory opinion, a a legal decision or something that states otherwise.
Right.
Because,
And there, because it's a state law, there's no hardship for something like this, correct?
I didn't, my reading of the regulations didn't show me that different hardships. I don't know what the hardship would be.
Because the only way onto the property with a sewer line is through a zone A in any point, even if they came down the main road, correct?
Right? That's-
Mhm.
Yes.
All right, so that covered everything that I have on the list, that you provided me. So I'll hold the board, does the board have any questions at this point?
No, I think I'll wait until February.
No? We'll see if it's going to be February, but our
Well,
next
that's the next sort of date of stuff that's going to be done. And they have already got a listing of things that they have to look at and take care of, if possible, too.
Okay. All right.
No questions at this time?
Question?
No questions.
I got a question for Marty and the applicant. I'll let Marty take it first. If our local bylaw we have in place is not waived, without a 25-foot no disturb zone, how does that affect this project?
There is work within the 25-foot district right now. So,
Roughly. Just,
how much would it affect it?
I can let the applicant answer that. 'cause I'm
Yeah,
sure
I
they
mean,
know.
I think, there's substantial, there is work in the 25-foot notes. I mean,
The entire road coming in.
and, in the back and.
Which we recently had an applicant here who had an entrance to a property who had the same problem, and we made them move the road.
Yes.
So for the applicant, if our local bylaw is not waived, and you guys have to abide by our 25-foot no disturb zone, how does it affect your project? 'Cause I don't want to waste any more time on this. I really don't. I didn't even want to have this meeting. It just seems like there's so many obstacles here. I'd rather the obstacles get worked out instead of wasting meeting time. Right? Wasting everybody else's time, wasting everybody coming here, last minute cancellations, etc. So, if that's the case, how does it affect your project?
Well, we
I'm sure
gotta
you
work.
know. So,
Yeah, we have to work that out with the ZBA, as you said earlier, Chairman. They're the ones that make that decision. And, we debated whether to come back here tonight, but we thought that Zone A was something, it's been a while,
it has, and I'm glad we talked about it. So.
Yeah, so we thought, all right, we'll, present the Zone A, we'll go over the changes that we've made to date. We do have some issues to still address. We're not gonna argue about that. But we, now that we do have the Zone A addressed, we did present that to the ZBA. We hadn't gotten that letter from Richard Friend at that point. So when we go back in February, we'll present that letter. And we'll raise the bylaw issue.
I mean, that needs to be
So it's a little bit
decided.
of chicken and the egg we're dealing with here.
That was my hesitation with even having
I
any
understand.
further hearings until this has been decided. I don't know why the zoning board hasn't decided this. I mean, this has been in front of the zoning board for how long? Roughly a year and a half? 2 years?
Yeah.
Why hasn't the decision been made? I suggest everybody in the audience go to the zoning board and ask them why it has not been made.
Oh, we have.
We have, and they're leaving it to you.
They can't leave it to me, I can't waive it. This board cannot waive it. You just heard it from the applicant, you heard it from our professional. I don't know what the hesitation is. I really don't. If they're gonna waive it, we need to know, because that's gonna affect our decision here.
I think if I could just say that the Zone A was it's a big deal to you guys, but it's also a big deal to the ZBA.
Of course.
We have that addressed. I think now that that's been addressed, I think we can get down to other issues, including the waivers. I mean, we put in the waiver request, they haven't addressed it. They said they don't want to address it till we get the Zone A squared away. And that's what we've done.
Well,
So this was a bit of a, a check-in with this commission, to update you and, but yeah, you want to know,
I do.
we all want to know what our template is. I agree.
Right, I mean, we keep on going over and over this, and these variables that will change this significantly if they're in place.
Right,
And it's taking up everybody's time.
right.
And I'm not just talking about, talking about everybody who has to email me and ask me if you guys are coming. Mary wants to come in video. She needs to warm up the camera. There's a lot of things that are, that
I
are.
want to speak too.
I'm sure you do, Mary Ann. You will be allowed to speak, don't you worry about it. When have I ever said no?
You haven't.
Never.
Well, I mean,
And I'm glad you came, I'm glad we addressed the Zone A, but I really think the elephant in the room is the bylaw. That's my opinion. And I don't know why a decision hasn't been made on it, but that needs to be made. I guess what I'm saying is that needs to be made before we have another hearing.
yeah, I thought you were going to say that. Well, that's a good message that I can bring back to the ZBA at our next hearing.
I mean, it is our consultant reviewing the original plans who found the Zone A issue originally. I'll leave out any further comments on it. Okay, so the board's all set. We addressed that. That's good. Questions from the audience? Let's not turn this into a circus. If somebody asks a question, let's not have anybody else re-ask the same question. That's all I'm asking. Everybody will be heard, it's fine. I just need name and address and have at it. Go ahead, sir.
Thanks. John Ward, 22 Nevins Circle. Now, from what I heard here tonight, the applicant is proposing a sewer line to connect to Wilson Street. Is that correct?
Correct.
And is that sewer line currently under the existing plan crossing a Zone A? So they can't technically do that, right?
Well, that's what Marty alluded to, and she wants a legal decision on that, whether that can happen or not.
Okay.
So she has addressed that question.
And there's one more, well, it's interesting that they want to connect to the town sewer because of, right now, there is no capacity at the sewer plant. And there won't be for some time because the current sewer commissioners have been working to try and correct the problem there, but there has been gross mismanagement at that sewer plant for the last 10 years, which has resulted in a sewer plant that is beyond capacity at this point. And some of the projections I'm hearing is an upgrade of somewhere that's going to cost between $80 and $100 million to get done. And they don't even know where that's going to come from. But that's the side issue. I realize that's not the Conservation Commission.
It is not.
But I'm just bringing that point up so that everybody understands that.
I'm sure they're aware of the sewer issue also, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So, okay, so I'd be very interested to see what proposal will come out to attempt to run a sewer line out of this place. Thank you.
Well, anybody else? Mary Parsons, something Union Street, I think.
Mary Parsons, 754 Union Street, Rockland. I heard from Richard Friend as well. And 3 times, DEP has told them, this is a Zone A, period. They've tried to get rid of the Zone A. Plus, if I'm not mistaken, Wilson Street and Colby Street are in the Zone A.
Correct.
And you cannot pipe underground any sewerage, anything. Even if, I noticed that they're stating
Mary.
underground, they're in,
Mary, hold on one second. Can you show us Wilson Street on the map and kind of do your highlighted box over, please?
From
That's what I was referring to earlier.
and Colby.
Yeah, but Colby's not coming in, that's not the sewer line.
No,
It's
this is
Wilson.
not zone A, next to 152 Wilson.
Wilson's up here.
Get down there. Get down. Take it easy.
Okay, here's Colby, here's Wilson, it's all in the zone A. It's in the zone A,
Well,
no matter how you look at it.
Out of division. I agree
Right,
with you.
and DEP said, Richard Friend said, this is a minor change to the zone A map. This isn't any big deal. They still can't pipe underneath anything. They can't, they make this statement that they have those underground tanks to do their stormwater, but they can't discharge or go through the zone A to discharge. That's the issue. The stormwater discharge, they can't do it. And that's why the continuance is all along. I just want everyone to know.
Right, I mean, Mr. Chair, that was all along, that was, you can't discharge the zone. So they pulled their discharge back to outside the zone for their stormwater management. But just,
That's the
Our-
structures, correct?
yes, so our approach to this review is that stormwater management and complying with the standards fully is critical because it is discharging at the boundary of the zone A. So we're making sure that every standard is complied with to the letter of the law. There's no.
Which is what we would do for any
Right, this
project.
is what we do for all the projects, but this one in particular. This one in particular.
Because it is the Rockland water supply that we're working
Right.
with, so.
Chairman, could I just make a comment? With regard to the sewer pipe in Zone A, that is, revolves around an interpretation of the water supply regs. And it really is not, with all respect, a issue for the Conservation Commission under the Wetlands Act. I have an opinion about how those regs should be interpreted. And since that is an extension of a public sewer, that is in fact allowed under the regulations. But I started out by saying, that really isn't an issue for the Concom. So,
Well, I'll agree with you in one aspect and I'll disagree with you in another, so, let's just get it addressed. How's that sound? Fair enough? Whether it's an issue for the Conservation Commission or the zoning board or Board of Health or whomever, let's just get it addressed.
yeah,
Let's get a legal opinion on it. And the board's gonna wanna see it as part of our decision, I can promise you that. Whether it's in our purview or not, I can probably have Marty write something up that shows it is, it is or it isn't.
Yep.
That's fine.
This is as far as we're going, we're not allowed to go down.
We're gonna wanna see it,
That's the media center.
so. I'm not saying that's gonna stop us from approving or not approving the project. What I'm saying is we're gonna wanna see it.
I understand.
That's all.
We understand, but
Fair
we
enough.
also, the same way we don't want to waste everybody's time, we don't want to waste your time with a subject that's really not part of the Wetland Protection Act. We understand it's important, we understand other boards, and your board's very interested in it. We're happy to show you the information as we get it, but it's not a useful discussion in the context of Wetland Protection Act.
Well, unfortunately, I've been on this board for a long time. And we have many discussions that are not exactly related to why we're here,
You're not alone.
okay? I try to minimize them, but people want to be heard, and we're of the opinion that we let them speak.
And we
And that's the way we
we
are.
understand it's an issue, and we've heard that.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
If I could just, as long as we're talking about things outside really the scope of the jurisdiction, I wanted to respond to a comment made by the gentleman regarding the treatment plant and capacity. The applicant has offered to provide funds.
I figured that was coming.
What's that?
I figured that was coming.
Yeah, right. To
I
the
tell you what, you
extent
pay for
that-
the whole thing, you might get included.
Yeah, I mean, yes, you need I&I repairs. and he's willing to pay for it.
I mean,
That will save, you know, a half million gallons per day.
it's definitely an issue.
Much more than what he's taking.
Right. Which is, well, I mean, that's the standard anyway, right now, is you would have to say what you're putting in.
It's- It'd be like 15 times more. So it really would be a benefit for the town.
Mary, you had your hand up again.
Yes, because the sewer department also has an ordinance that you can't do sewerage in a zone A.
Oh,
Yep.
anybody else in the audience have any questions? Just so everybody knows, this is definitely going to be continued. Hopefully, we're going to agree to continue this until after the ZBA hearing. I don't want to go month to month with this
We're
anymore.
fine with that.
And I'm sure everybody in the audience doesn't want to go month to month, and the board doesn't want to. So I say that we set the hearing for maybe a month after the ZBA hearing, so you have time to work that out.
Mark?
First meeting in March. Is that
Sounds
clear
good.
enough for the board?
Sounds reasonable.
So, anybody else that, I can't see anybody because of this light, so. Go ahead.
Just a brief question.
Name, address?
Jim Hanson, 114 Pond Street. I noticed during the conversation that there was pump testing as far as their water supply goes. I noticed a lot of trucks down there and there's areas being tested. Is anyone there to like check to make sure none of this is going to our water supply? That all these pit tests, I see multiple pit tests everywhere.
Our consultant's on site for the
And
town.
how much water are they gonna suck from our reservoir by putting these pumps in there? Is anyone doing
That-
anything about
That
this?
was actually a filing in front of us, I believe, in June-ish, March, I don't know. You guys can tell me. It was a while ago, and
2019,
Right.
Yeah, it's 3 years.
2019.
So they do have an order of conditions to
Correct.
conduct their pump test. I was actually on site today, and there were surveyors on the site, but what they were doing was reestablishing the wetlands flags that I asked them to do, so that we could take a look at the limit of work and the wetland flags. They did set up their dewatering crib. They have that set up, ready to go when they actually do their pump test, but I didn't see any evidence of any test pits or any other activity occurring on the site when I was there. They know that they have to do a pre-construction before they start putting in the gauges at the vernal pool.
piezometers or whatever.
Yeah, they are well aware of that, so we just need to coordinate a schedule to do all that. But work's gonna be occurring over the next couple months.
And the reason for this
But, I
test,
mean, can someone show the locations of those eventually? Because they seem like they're all in the area where there's very much concerns of where these pumps are gonna be, you know.
well, the reason for this test is to see if the wells will work.
Right, and how much water they're gonna draw. Well, they're gonna take from our supply.
It's not from the supply, it's actually from the wetland.
Yeah.
To see if it's gonna draw down the wetland or not. We did heavily condition that order of conditions for them, and we are aware of everything that they're doing. One of the board members actually called and saw the trucks and stuff. We're aware of everything going on, and Marnie's watching it. And she works for the town of Rockland, yeah.
So just real quick, we did go through this all when we went through the notice of intent order conditions for this pump test. There are 3 wells out there, about where the arrow that they may show it. There are 3 wells out there. The pump test the protocol for the pump test was submitted to a review by the DEP, and it came to the Conservation Commission as well. And DEP's approved the protocol, and the intent of the pump test is to see if when you're pumping the wells individually or in tandem, whether or not there's any impact due to that pumping. That's the whole purpose of the test. So it's a 48-hour pump test to see whether or not we have monitoring points that we proposed with the Conservation Commission we're going to establish out there after we do the site visit. And we're going to monitor those. We're going to monitor actually the groundwater levels and the surface water levels 10 days prior to the pump test. And then we're running a series of 48-hour pump tests because you pump wells 1 and 2 together, and 2 and 3 together, and 1 and 3 together. So you actually have 3 pump tests so that you can test it. And then during those pump tests, these monitoring points have transponders in the well points out there, so we can see if the water levels are coming down due to the pumping. And then following the pumping, we monitor it for another 10 days if there was any drawdown to see what the rebound level is in those wells out there. So it's a fairly lengthy process, you know. So
It's a test.
it's a test, and it's going to take us a month. You know,
Is that gonna be public? Is that, once those results are starting to come back, as far as like, are we gonna know?
Everything we do here is
Yes.
public.
Right, as far as his test, because it's on his property, so.
Everything we do here is public.
And the other thing we're doing is testing the water quality in those
Right.
wells, because it's been tested before, but it was requested that we retest that prior to the pump test, and that's what we're doing.
I think that Marty brought that up, didn't you, Marty?
Yeah,
The actual testing of the water.
yeah, it's a DEP required it in there.
Right, because there's a concern about PFAS and
Yeah.
other contaminants, and we understand that. We had the DEP actually out there with us, somebody else from the DEP, the water supply group,
So,
looking at PFAS coming from the Home Depot.
so correct me if I'm wrong, you won't need the wells if you could get Rockland water?
Correct,
And you're obviously in negotiations for that? or-
correct.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay. Fairly painful. Motion to continue.
March 14th, motion.
Motion.
Everybody know about them, they have to.
Motion to continue this hearing until March 14th. Yeah. If you could send me a letter on that, because it's so far out, that
Sure.
agree with the continuance, please. And as soon as you get the ZBA results, we'd like them.
Of course.
We know what's going on. You don't know what's going on. Kind of a shame, but you don't. Thank you.
All right, thank you
Thank you
very
very
much. Thanks for your time.
All right, moving on.
Do you have more paper of that in your office?
She wants to know if she can have that.
No, I want to know if I can have, is page 8 the one that has, it was the first one that you started, that had sort of the overall picture?
He doesn't want that, that's.
Fold it up neatly and I'll take it.
Yeah,
I believe it has this at the,
yeah, we could always use help.
whether that works for them.
Oh, speaking of that,
Was 8 the one that showed the,
you think you guys could
the first one that you showed? Yeah.
do me a favor
It's,
and send
it's Richard Friend from DEP.
all of the letters, documents,
The sewer department
everything
has a,
related to this project.
And I mentioned the word too.
Everything that's involved. Here. Everything that you receive or file, you can send that to the town clerk's office. Digitally is fine, if you want to do that.
Oh, PDFs, yeah, okay.
So it can be either one.
As we, and this one is the modification.
Correct.
Yeah,
The-
absolutely.
Okay.
The town clerk asked me
Is-
today,
see what's in
you know,
these.
I didn't realize they wanted actual
That was
copies
Goofy
of
Drew's place.
the notice of intent on file. At the clerk's office.
And what's the pump test up to?
They have the pictures.
Yeah, we already did that.
Yeah.
That's what
That's
prompted
what
this.
prompted them to ask everything else.
You can send everything, and that's gonna be, you know, if you ever come back in front of us for another project, we'll discuss that a little later on, that's gonna be standard from now on. When you submit to us, it goes right to the town clerk.
You want me to send that through the chair?
What's that?
You want me to send it through you?
That's ready. Okay, moving on, golf course. Actually, the golf course is not here, so. Let's get the, let's get the water department. All right, so this hearing is not open.
No.
Yep. Motion to open the hearing, Hanman Water Treatment Plant, addition.
Mary, all you do. It's to clean up our water so that I can drink it.
Yeah.
I've already had my sample, thank you very much, so let's get to it. No, it
I don't
isn't.
even know what to say to that.
If I've been drinking the water and I ended up having cancer, you know, there is a direct. Everybody does, that's right, I've been drinking that water since 1979.
I'd like to make on the record that the water is not protected.
No, we know that.
Okay.
Have you been talking to Braintree, David?
I've been talking to everybody across the world.
Yeah, that's good, because there's another town that they've done it, town wise, and they've also given up.
It's
Everybody, it's not just law.
I know, I'm just saying that people are doing.
Oh, yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so I don't.
I'll be talking
Do anything you want.
All right, great. Let me, I'll turn my laptop.
Actually, I don't like this.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. All right, I'm not
Except I
millennial, so
think
I
the
have
next time
paper.
we'll sit on the other side.
Yeah, 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 exactly.
Right? No, we'll just sit on the other side too.
It's just who, it's the right
Yeah, this way. We don't have to. I think it just automatically screen mirrors, right?
No,
Well, help her out.
We might not have the same, well, this one, this wasn't I never brought my adapter, so.
If it don't fit, don't force it.
Do you want one of those little creative adapters? Yeah, sorry, I left mine on the other side. I'm gonna make that suggestion. Are we officially open? Yes. All right, so Tara McManus, Weston and Sampson Engineers. I'm here on behalf of the Abington Rock and Joint Waterworks. As was stated, the general gist of this project is to install a new filter building to supplement the existing filter building there. Right now, the current treatment plant only has one filter. So for redundancy, we're applying for the DEP to put a secondary filter in, just in case we need to take that one offline and do some repairs on it. It's a 50-year-old plus plant, so it's really aging infrastructure. The other part of this major project is the problem of PFAS. So we are building a PFAS treatment plant. We've basically gone through, done some routine testing as was required by Mass DEP, found that there was PFAS in the water. Occasionally it's above the regulatory limit. Regulatory limit right now for the state of Massachusetts, which is higher than the current federal limit, is at 20 parts per trillion. Sometimes the water tests on a monthly basis a little bit above, sometimes a little bit below.
How much is a little bit?
Well, let's just say parts per trillion. It's kind of like a drop in like one part in a giant swimming pool. Yeah. So occasionally, the accuracy of the current testing methods that we can do across the country right now are anywhere from about 15 to 25% accurate. So when we do these tests, we kind of have the results and we kind of go with it. And it's just, you know, there's 6 standards that we have to add together to come up with that 20. So it is 6 different polyfluorol substances that compose those 20. So 20 parts per trillion. So sometimes it's about 25, sometimes it's at 16. On the average, we're kind of right around that. So the whole goal here is that we want to be in compliance with the state, so that's what we're going for. We're actually going to go for treating to basically remove it as much as we possibly can. So the goal obviously is to get non-contact, and that's the whole goal. So that we're putting in a filter building. So this kind of just gives you a general overview of the whole site. I know Shimon was real close to this, so you're very familiar with this site.
Yeah, we made you sit through that on purpose.
I know, I was like, oh, I have so many comments.
I'm actually not kidding.
I know actually, and I know the DP person that they talked about too, and everybody else. So you know, this is the general area that the whole entire project for the Hingham Street Reservoir. The watershed obviously is a lot larger. You're very familiar with the Zone A. Our situation right here, we're talking about the tiny little treatment plant here. We're adding a small building, a little about 70 by, 25 foot. And then we've got our other building here. It is larger. This is much larger, the actual PFAS treatment site. But we are within a 100-foot buffer zone, and we also allegedly have a little bit of a zone A issue as well with them. So I'm just going to zoom into it a little bit easier and show you here what we're looking at. All right, so this is kind of our general site preparation and erosion controls. The entire limit of work, we're basically calling out this entire area here. So this is your existing treatment plant right here. This is our new filter building, and this box right here is our new proposed box building. We have some underground piping. We have a couple locations that we need to connect to existing. We're doing some modifications inside the plant to basically, control everything from the plant and operate these two new structures. This is kind of the border of the reservoir. There was some discussion a little bit on floodplain and other considerations. I've been working on the Haines Street expansion area and working for that Rockland Joint Works for 20 years. The folks that actually operate the plant have been there for way longer than that. Nothing in this area has ever flooded. This is not an area of flood concern for us. But based on the Zone A, we decided to put that on the map. We kind of do show this little outline here. And it does kind of go through this area up in here. So we've got a little smidgen of the building right here, and then this little spot right here where our building is coming in. We've worked with Marty, really appreciate her quick responses. We've gone back and forth on and addressing her concerns. I think we're on the same page, and I think we're in a pretty good position right now.
Not putting any sewer lines in it.
No sewer lines, no. There is an existing sewer line.
And putting drainage structures in it.
No, well, we are adding a French
In the
drain
Zone
just
A.
for the roof leaders to collect it. So, but overall, it's a much less complex project than we see here earlier. So, but in general, though, we are very aware. Obviously, we're within the 100-foot. We've kind of got our erosion control measures up there, and I'm going to just open it up for questions. I think let's see, this is the 25-foot. Or the 100-foot, sorry, the 100-foot, yeah, I was going to say that's way farther. So, I mean, obviously, this whole entire,
pretty close.
this whole entire area has already been previously disturbed. It's predominantly paved, treatment plant, mowed grass, and then the expansion area. This has actually all been, the reservoir itself, it's been defined by man, so it's pretty much where it is. I guess I'm just going to open it up to questions and see if anybody has any questions or concerns.
Marty, did you work out the outstanding issues on this one?
Sure, I can just summarize. So the original notice of intent plan set was much less detailed than the set that they provided last week. They show now surface topography. They show the limit of work. They're showing the 25-foot no disturb now. They're showing locations of potential dewatering that they may have to do. Right, and so the information they provided is much more detailed and it describes the site sufficiently. So I'm happy with that. I did look at the site. There is flagged vegetated wetlands, both up in the north part of the site, which I looked at, and it's fine. And then on the southern end, there's bank and BBW. I think there's BBW. There's definitely bank along. And I looked at those flags, and they were fine. This project is subject to the stormwater regulations. So they've provided the checklists. They described this. It's a combined redevelopment and new development. The new development, which is the new impervious surface, is associated with the roof of the structure, I believe, on the southern end.
That's
Right
the new
there.
bigger building.
Yes. And they're collecting the roof runoff in those trenches, just to control volume and peak vessel. There's no existing stormwater management on the site whatsoever. So,
Existing.
existing.
Yeah.
So they're adding some controls.
Which is part of the redevelopment.
You-
Right. You have to
Right, so,
You gotta do something.
yes, they gotta do something. So anyway, so they provided the checklist, it's now fully completed, certified, signed, and stamped by James Pearson, I believe. So that's been provided, they provided a stormwater report, so they provided everything they need for this particular project, according to regulations. So, the one thing that they are going to provide is, they are doing some work in the mapped Zone A floodplain. It's different from the Zone A tributary water supply. And they're gonna provide the commission with a quantification for the square footage in cubic feet. They're gonna estimate the cubic feet. And so that when the order is issued, we can add that in. I can't do it. I mean, I guess we could, but it
Ran
doesn't.
those numbers.
So that's more of a reference point, just to make sure
Right,
it's
right.
in our order and you can't go over that amount.
So the
Right.
commission is in black and white, and we have approved that. And
In other words, if it was 100 square feet, it can't turn into 1,000.
Right. So, and they're not providing mitigation for that. Maybe we can talk about that, based on what I'm reading is just the fact that it's just gonna be very minimal,
Right. You said you had the
cubic
numbers?
feet.
I do, so, with the actual permanent disturbance area, which we would consider this PFAS building and this treatment, filter building, if you can see this kind of little squiggly, this is from the FEMA map, so there's a little bit that comes over here. This area that would be impacted by the new impervious area of the building, we calculate that to be just above about, I'll say 1,150 cubic feet. This little corner right here is less than 1.5 cubic feet. So, and to be very clear, and probably this first, in our opinions, it was all negligible in the first place. As we look at this tiny little building here and about 1/5 of it or so, and this is the expansion, this is the whole Hampshire Reservoir. That little impact is not going to flood the reservoir or impact anything that's up here. It's a relatively extremely flat terrain here. This is all just a parking lot paved area. So.
We would agree, but we just wanted it out.
And we want to make sure we get the numbers to you today, just in case we can do conditionally upon agreement with our numbers when we submit them officially. But so we'd be fine with putting in 2,000 cubic yards, if that, just to have a little
Cubic
buffer.
feet?
Cubic feet, yes,
Feet,
my bad.
yes, and then square footage too.
Yes.
Area, yeah, that's.
Yep.
Because the area has wildlife habitat adverse impacts, potentially, but in this case, all the work's in already developed area. It's not, it doesn't have any important wildlife habitat features.
Yeah, I don't think any mitigations are necessary, just let's have it as part of our order in writing. And that way there, it doesn't turn into 25,000 square feet. We have to come back here and argue about it. Marty, you have anything else?
Nope.
Pretty good?
Yeah.
Board have any questions?
Nope. I say get her done.
Any from the audience?
Anybody from the audience besides Mary? Wait a minute, there's somebody up there.
I think I didn't see it first.
Come down here, join the light if you'd like.
No, it's nice back there.
Anyway, okay. You okay to close the hearing?
Me personally, I am 100%.
Motion to close the hearing? John, you?
Well, you want me to?
I always ask.
Well, yes. I think we're all set. I don't want to have some recommendation.
Motion to close the hearing?
Second.
Favor? Marty, did you have a draft for this?
I don't have a draft order.
Okay, so, we'll, put our orders together and we'll have it to you on the 10th.
All right, excellent. Do
Fair
we
enough.
want to attend to the next meeting for
I
that, or
don't believe that you would have to do that.
just let me know if we do?
So, motion to issue the orders on the 10th?
So Second.
We'll,
Take your pick.
we'll have them and we'll send them out the following day.
All right, I appreciate it.
Okay.
Appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank
Could I
you.
have a copy of the NOI?
No. Yes, you may. It's
Thank
gonna
you.
be at the clerk's office anyway.
Yeah.
Hey, can you do me a quick favor?
Yes,
Not now, but tomorrow, next day, next month, whenever.
sure.
Can you send a full copy of the NOI to the clerk's office? for me?
Yeah, we can definitely do that. And supplemental information, which we will continue
Digitally
to add to,
fine.
so.
Okay?
They probably don't want this electronic,
I said digitally is fine. Hear me?
Well, I'm just making sure you're clear when you're asking for it, because they're not gonna want paper, because they end up giving it to me and putting it downstairs.
Just before she leaves, the one thing I wanted to add, about the metal.
I don't know,
roof.
we closed.
Wait, no,
Sorry.
The metal roof.
I know. So we-
Because if it's a metal roof, then there's potential contaminants, entrance, but the statement, maybe she provides a statement that it's not a metal roof.
So it is the design is for a metal roof. It's a basically prefab building, so it kind of comes all together. It would be a significant change in design. We do not anticipate any kind of concerns with the runoff.
Well,
We can
I just,
wash it first,
for the
maybe,
record,
yeah.
I had talked to James Pearson a couple of times about the metal roof, and he did not state it was going to be metal roof, because it needs to be treated. A metal roof needs to be treated prior to discharge. So,
The water needs to be treated, or the roof?
yeah, because metal roofs run off metal roofs could contribute to contaminants, at least somewhat. And that's, I wish he had mentioned that earlier today. But who knows?
Well,
We could put it in the order.
we can put it in the order, no matter roof if we wanted to.
Yeah, that's right.
The new treatment process with PFAS will catch everything. I can talk to him a little bit about that. We can just get back to you guys and clarify that a little bit. But it is, and I believe it's just for it's just the filter building, correct? Because the
I know the plans don't show details.
yeah, the prefab, it's kind of it's not, yeah. I'll check in with architects on that, but the intent was to have a metal roof and have it one full, complete fabrication and try to save a little bit of money.
What would it take to treat it?
They won't be able to treat it with what they have.
Yeah, there's no stormwater, it's just downspouts and collecting into the ground.
They're really just controlling volume and heat with
Are there already metal roofs on site?
No, that is definitely not a metal roof that is a 50-plus-year-old,
Asphalt?
possibly.
But, and you know,
You said you're gonna talk to,
I can look into that. I mean, that's something that, we've
Talk to them,
discussed it with our,
just get back to us on it.
because our stormwater guys, James, our architects are different. I'm the actual PFAS expert. There's a lot of folks involved with this, so.
Okay.
But yeah, we can definitely bring
If,
that up.
you could just get back to us on it, that'd be great.
Sure, that was one thing I did not too much on, so.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
All right, last but not least, the golf course, the solar panel array. This was closed, right?
you, okay,
It is closed, you just need the motion to issue
Okay.
order change the motion.
good.
I knew it was closed. So, we just need a motion to issue the orders.
So moved.
Did you bring copies?
You did?
So let's get those signed, and while we're doing that, somebody second it, please. So as you noticed, I mentioned to both applicants, the clerk's office is requesting copies of all of our stuff. I believe the previous clerk, it might have been the previous one, I don't know. We were doing that, and then all of a sudden we got told, don't do it anymore, because you're flooding us with papers. So Liza wants it, she requested it, so she's gonna get it. I'm gonna try as much as possible to get her it digitally, so it doesn't take up her entire office. I don't think that she understands that these plans are 3 feet wide and can get in the way really easily. I did mention that to her though, and she did mention that she implemented something with the zoning and planning board. That there's an option to have the plan shrunk to 11, Marty, is that a thing? Or
Yeah, 11 by 17.
11 by 17?
Yep.
So
That's a
Marty
nice
offered,
size. It goes this way. Put it in the room.
Marty office to come up with like a little checklist that we hand off to the applicants. And say, okay, you're gonna send 2 copies to her, 2 copies to the board, and a copy to the town clerk's office of everything. I wanna make sure that she gets that. It will greatly ease the pain of these public records requests, which you, as board members, don't know. But I do, because I have to deal with them.
I remember when there was a
Pain in my
previous
ass.
lady that had the name Pat in her name, that was very concerned about
Well,
receiving information,
Well,
like for him.
Liza wants to help us out by having information there,
Good.
and as far as I'm concerned, we're gonna get it.
I'm leaving the top line for you, sir.
You don't have to do that.
I'm being nice.
So,
So the metal
Take it
roof
away.
comments in
so we'll start doing that moving forward,
Mhm.
and we're gonna try to put it back on the applicant to do it, instead of having, you know, my wife do it, or me, or somebody else. It'll be part of their process of filing with the commission. That it goes, that the copy goes in. Fair enough? So unless somebody on the board wants to volunteer to handle any public records requests, if you really want to, just let me know. I'll be glad to hand that off to somebody.
So we have a motion to sign bills.
Oh, yeah.
Does anyone join me? Thank you. Very good.
Thank you, and I think that's it.
Oh, this is for,
You guys want copies?
Beginning.
You guys hold on.
the commission sign.
Somebody needs to do that?
That's Mark's hour.
Oh,
Do we
yeah,
need-
that-
That's right, we don't need to do it because we're gonna sign it for the next meeting. Okay.
Because you don't, you're never gonna have that. Good.
Do you need 2 of these? So,
Do not let Doug sign that.
Are we allowed to ask what's
No.
going on with the Dyer Street
you can ask.
project? Okay.
You can ask anything. It's coming along quite nicely.
Okay, so
Looks great from Union Street.
Not for myself.
with the drainage part of it is, like, what's going on with that? Just curious.
Complete nightmare, they fired
Yes, I-
fired the site contractor because he was an idiot.
I was on site today.
We thought you were.
We thought you were, we thought
I went on
We
site
got
today
to it,
and I
so.
talked to the new contractor and I let him know that there's potential enforcement still on the table. The commission was giving them a few weeks for the new contractor to come on board. He was aware that he needed to build both infiltration systems to support the building and the extension of Dyer Street coming in. This fix the erosion controls.
Couple minor wetland impacts, right?
Oh, yeah, the 25-foot notice to the
25,
back, he
that's
does do that in the spring.
They decimated that.
And I just wanted, and I said, and the commission and you all want nothing more than get the thing done.
Right,
So,
right.
so the commission is not gonna stand in the way of that being done, but we're keeping an
You
eye
gotta
on it.
do it right, right.
So that's kind of the
Right,
message
exactly.
So that's kind of the message I gave them today. I'm gonna call Mike Gaspar tomorrow, just to let him know he's on site and talk to the new contractor. They installed utilities in Dyer Street.
Oh, they did?
Well, they were doing something today, they were trenching.
Yeah, they were trenching, they also did it on South Douglas
Yeah, so,
earlier.
and they're, you know, so,
That's utilities,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
The question I have is.
I mean, at this point, we're already down the road.
Oh, yeah.
Let's try to get her done.
Yeah,
Oh, we
Well,
don't, we
well-
didn't, yeah, we just wanted to see what was, yeah, going on, like, right behind
Exactly.
us.
The question I have is, those blue semicircular,
Caltech units, those are, the- yeah.
they already put those in behind the
Behind the
building.
building, yeah.
Right.
Now, do they have to do piping? I thought they had to do some kind of piping. That's for infiltration water, right? So
Yes.
they have to, I know they're gonna pipe in.
Yes,
And don't they have to pipe out as well?
yes, they actually, the back, they have the discharge.
Towards the northeast side, by
Yeah,
Union Street,
yes. Yeah, they have it kind of rough graded in the stone in. I know it's-
But doesn't the pipe have to go underneath that? Underneath those blue?
That's all, yeah, that's all.
Actually, it's gonna be fill on top of it. It's gonna be filled,
Fill
so
goes on
it's
top
gonna go
of
in.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's
Oh,
not
okay,
done
so the
yet.
pipes on
Yeah, we knew it
on the
wasn't
rocks,
done, but we
okay.
weren't sure.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, so,
'cause
but-
that makes sense,
But the
okay.
planning board, that Brendan is supposedly gonna keep an eye on the stormwater, the drainage. That was the agreement, because we don't want both the commission's engineer and it just doesn't make sense.
Mhm.
Right,
So I
right.
don't know, I don't know, what's going on there, but.
The only other question I had, and this is probably for the whole board, is on that stream that runs through there. There's a sign now there that says it's town drainage.
Drainage ditch.
Drainage, it's a
What
drainage
does
ditch.
that mean?
What does that mean? What changed, did anything change in
Does that
that, or
mean-
is that just,
It's not a stream or a river.
it's not a stream, it's in.
Back part?
In the back, the street?
No, the one that goes under Union Street.
And the one that used to flood your neighbor on
Yeah,
Union Street.
on Bigelow.
Union and-
That's,
The one that,
that's not like a stream or a river, that's just a drainage ditch, correct?
But in the
it's
back
coming out of
is,
the wetland.
yeah, there's one
Yeah,
in the
that's
back.
stream.
Yeah, so
It's
we
a
don't,
stream.
yeah,
It's a stream.
all of a sudden these signs
Not a
come out,
river.
you're like, what is
No,
this?
No, it's not
not
a
a
river,
river.
it's not
It's
a
a
river,
stream.
it's a stream. Yes.
But the sign says town drainage.
I don't.
Oh,
It's a
they
stream.
just,
Oh, who put that sign?
okay,
there?
yeah.
Not me, that's
it
it.
just popped up like,
Yeah.
I don't know, a few months back.
Well,
Like, what is
I mean, the
it?
town did do a major repair there.
Yes, on the
Yes,
other
there was
side
a
of the
flooding
street.
there, right? I
they
think there was a
did,
major
yeah.
flooding there.
Um,
It did something with this fencing or
When they
whatever.
did the catch basin originally, they messed it up.
Okay.
And that house, it always gets flooded, the side yard got flooded way worse.
Oh,
So they had to reconfigure the catch basin. I was up there with them,
okay.
kind of watching what was going on,
Okay.
but, yeah.
The reason why I ask is because that runs under South Douglas and goes over to
Yeah, that's
Winding
a-
Way.
that's long.
And it's in, and there's a big retention pond there in Winding Way, which you probably know.
It goes
And
down
then
by the
goes,
rehab
and
center.
it goes all the way,
Yes,
yeah, it goes by
yes.
the rehab center. I think that all goes all the way down to Reed's Pond, doesn't it?
Probably at some point.
Yeah, 'cause it goes, I know it goes by two of the schools and everything down that way. So if that's a town drainage,
Yes.
if that's what it's called, I don't know if there's anything that's going in there.
So it's not something
Can I
that's
ask the
down to
lady what
that.
her
That's
name
all
is?
we were.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, Brian Goodell and Rice Ave.
And,
That's
Hey, Catherine Goodell.
okay.
I mean,
I'm sorry.
I was wondering if you might have been Mrs. Capone, because,
Oh.
her husband.
I mean, I guess that's a question for Dave Taylor.
Okay, so that's the highway department. That's what, I wasn't sure if it was conservation
Okay,
highway.
all right.
Okay.
We just, yeah, so there are still issues.
Okay,
going on
so
there.
I'll-
Yes,
That you're
I'll-
watching.
when I'm in
Okay.
town, I stop by.
We saw you that day.
I mean, nothing,
I thought it was like, if I had on.
I can tell you nothing's changed.
Our house is elected.
Nothing's changed as far as the street drainage.
Yes, we back up to it.
Oh, okay, good, good. I wanted to make
It
sure.
hasn't
that-
changed.
Okay.
Yes, we back up.
It's
Good.
just that one catch basin. Well,
Okay.
it first failed,
You're on
and
the
then they
right
redid it, they redid
Yes,
it
we
wrong, and
are-
then they redid it again.
Valerie.
But it's
Yeah.
always
We are on
been
the
that.
Right.
So we
Right.
are
Okay.
we're
Nothing's
behind
changed.
that
We were always
building
under the
there.
impression
We're not
Okay.
behind the building, but
Okay.
we're beside it.
It's
Yeah.
more,
Yeah,
It's
So
drainage.
we have a bigger
I
pot of that.
think it's
more
an overflowing
drainage.
stream.
it's more.
It's more drainage.
He just wanted to make sure it
Um,
was.
That actually goes,
Was it
goes,
I don't know how
It
far.
down
was,
to
you're
Summit.
right, yeah.
Yep, right, and then the houses on Myrtle.
out
get crushed
Summit,
like that, too.
and it actually taps into the Union Street drainage down there.
Really? Okay. I didn't know where.
It's all one connected thing.
But it also goes up Myrtle. It goes across Myrtle, because those houses get flooded too.
I think there's a branch that goes that way.
Yeah. So the drainage starts from Summit, not from Myrtle, not from the Myrtle side.
It goes behind Myrtle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it's going in a lot of directions. It goes underneath,
it is big, yeah.
Summit Street's the side street, right?
Yes,
Mm.
yes.
Yeah.
Off you.
It goes, because there's a drainage ditch out in back of the first house in the corner there.
Yep.
Yes.
That also ties, it's probably a couple different branches that all tie into that.
Okay.
But, I mean, the water comes from drainage mostly,
Well.
street drainage.
All right, but
Most-
there is a pond, there is like I don't know what you call it, a pond with that's overgrown and stuff, but.
Most of it comes from street drainage.
Yes, yes.
A lot of it comes off Liberty. Goes to top of Liberty, right?
Really?
Yep, that all ends up in that area too.
I know Old Swamp River starts on Liberty. Actually, it's over the hill from my house, and then it goes north.
Yeah, that's what I mean, is
Yeah.
that all,
Yeah, that whole
that's mainly
thing.
all,
That's the same area.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it goes by your house, goes through your property too.
And water that, you know, becomes
Well, there's a
year-round
pipe that
ends
goes
up being a
down.
stream, according to
the pipe goes
DEP.
out to Salem.
So drainage
Oh, okay.
is a stream,
Town
I
actually
thought
has,
there was all,
If it flows out of a wetland.
Yeah.
town actually has an easement. that's-
and it probably does.
Wasn't there like
Yeah.
a pond behind Holden?
So,
So that,
so,
okay,
yeah, no, that's not my
Yeah,
property up there, I wish it was.
I know. Okay,
Sorry,
all right, but
thank you.
that's good, thank you. So we'll check the highway department on
Yep.
that. Okay, great, thanks.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Have a
Motion
good
to
night,
adjourn?
yep.
I'll wait next
Oh,
time.
oops, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Huh? No. Working on it. I sent him, Marty provided me 3 engineers, and I sent it off to him, and he said he will be more than happy to do whatever it takes to make it right. That's exact words.
403.
Green insulation.
Oh,
I met with the owner, he said he will take this 100% seriously and do whatever it takes.
Is it the Caliaco property?
I said, work on your wallet, because you're gonna need it.
I'll go on that too.